कृष्ण। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna to everyone. So I hope you had a good week last week. And just before beginning, let me check how many of you were able to read the first chapter of the Gita. You can either raise your hands or you can type it on the chat box. Okay, Dheeraj says he was able to read the entire chapter of Gita. Thank you. Kirti also said that she was able to read. Darshan, yeah, thank you. Darshan, Indrayani, Nidhi, yeah, Dr. Harsha, and so many. Shriya, Niharika Bhaskaran, okay, Anuradha, Apurva, yeah. Thank you so much. You're able to read. And some of you must have read some selected portions of the Gita for answering the questions. Okay, Girish says he read few shlokas. Wonderful. It is said in Srimad Bhagavat Mahatmya. Shankaracharya says in his Bhajagovindam Stotra, Bhagavad Gita Kinchid Dhita Ganga Jalalava Kanika Pita Sakradapi Ena Murari Samarcha Kriyate Tasya Yamena Na Charcha. If somebody reads even a little bit of Gita, Bhagavad Gita Kinchit, one shloka, two shlokas, whatever it is, or even half a shloka. So they also will get benefit. They don't have to go to Yamaraj. They'll be free from all their sinful reactions. Just be reading a part of the Gita shloka also. So that's the power of Gita. Okay, Giri says he memorized the first shloka of Bhagavad Gita. Wonderful. Thank you. Can you recite, Girish? You can unmute and recite the first shloka. Girish Prabhu? Yeah. If possible, you can come and recite, or anybody who has recited, memorized. You can unmute your phone, they can recite the shloka.
Prabhuji, I'm Rishi. I've memorized all 5 shlokas.
Okay, wonderful. Can you recite?
Yes, Prabhuji. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveda yuyutsavaha mamakaha pandavaschaiva kim akurvata sanjaya.
Wonderful.
1.1.
1.1.
1.15 is Panchajanyam Rishikesho Devadattam Dhananjaya Paundram Dadmau Mahasankham Bhima Karma Vrikodaraha.
Wonderful.
Next one is Ananta Vijayam Raja Kunti Putro Yudhishthiraha Nakula Sahadevascha Subhosa Mani Pushpakau. Prabhuji, next one is Evam Ukto Rishikesho Gudakeshena Bharata Senayor Ubhayor Madhye Stapyatva Rathotamam.
Okay.
Next one, Evam Uktva Arjuna Sankhye Rathopasta Upavisat Visarjasa Saram Chapam Soka Sabvigna Manasaha.
Wonderful. Good. You have put a lot of effort. Thank you so much.
Prabhu, Girish here.
Yeah, Girish.
First shloka only I have bayated.
Okay, you can tell the first shloka. Wonderful. Yeah, please.
Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yutsavaha mamakaha pandavacha eva kim akurvata sanjaya.
Wonderful. Thank you, Girish Prabhu.
Thank you.
And I'm sure many of you must have also practiced. Anuradha says she memorized 3 shlokas. Thank you. So it's wonderful. So you can, those who have memorized one, you can try for the other ones also, as and when you get time. How to memorize shlokas? You can write them in a chit and keep on reciting them whenever you are free. When you have nothing to do, you just keep it and keep memorizing. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre, dharma kshetre kurukshetre, dharma kshetre kurukshetre. So each line you should recite 3 times. Right? Samaveta yutsavaha, samaveta yutsavaha, Samavetayutsavah Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kim Akurvata Sanjaya, Kim Akurvata Sanjaya, Kim Akurvata Sanjaya, like that. And then first two lines together, and next two lines together, and all the four lines together, three times. Then by repeatedly doing like this, the shloka will get memorized. And you will be able to memorize if you know the meaning of the shloka. Okay, so you should know the meaning. So, Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra, in a place called Kurukshetra, which was Dharma Kshetra, Samaveta, Yuyutsavaha, Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva. So the Kauravas, sons of Dhritarashtra, and Pandavas were Samaveta, assembled in the battlefield of Kurukshetra for fighting. Yuyutsavaha. What did they do? Kim Akurvata. So Dhritarashtra is asking to Sanjay. So like this, if you visualize the shloka and know the meaning, it's easy to memorize the shloka. So after you memorize the shloka, you should also know the meaning. It's better if you know the meaning first and then memorize the shloka. That's much easier. Okay? Fine. So thank you. Avanish says he memorized 3, Mohit says 5. Okay, I'm sure each one of you must have done good amount of work in this. Thank you so much. So today we are going to begin the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So to have a quick revision of the first chapter, in case somebody is joining for the first time or just to refresh your memory, the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita is entitled Sainya Nirikshana Yoga, or observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And the another title is also there for this, which is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Arjuna Vishada means Arjuna became Vishada, or he fell into perplexity or confusion. So that's called Arjuna Vishada Yoga. So in the beginning, you saw how our Duryodhan is approaching Dronacharya, and he is telling the glories of the Pandava Sena. So many soldiers are assembled here. But our army is also no less. We have you and we have Bhishma and we have wonderful warriors. With you, both of you, we can conquer the Pandavas. Like that, he was trying to give confidence to Dronacharya. And he was also using his political tendencies to get his work done. And then we saw how the conches were blown, and the conches blown by the Pandavas shattered the hearts of the Kauravas. So that was a sign of victory. And the monkey or Hanuman on the top of the flag of Arjuna is Hanuman. And then we also saw how Agni gave Ratha, and so many signs of victory were there. Lakshmi herself, the master of Lakshmi, was himself there. And then Arjuna requests, after the conch is blown, Arjuna requests, please show me. I want to go and see more closer who are there wanting to fight with me. Then when he goes nearby, he sees all the relatives standing in front. Bhishma, Drona, Acharyan, Matulan, Bhratran, Putran, Pautran, Sakim, Tata, right? Suhradas, so many well-wishers, they were all standing there. And then he gets tension. And when he gets tension, he says to Krishna, I'm getting confused. I don't know what to do. I'm getting tension. Please help me. Like that he says. So when he says like this, he gives more reasons actually. First reason he gives is, I'll show you the PPT here. The 4 reasons which will be answered today. Okay, it will come during the course of the discussion. CESDI, very easy to remember. CESDI. C means compassion, out of compassion for the relatives. E means his own enjoyment. After killing everybody, how can I enjoy? With whom will I enjoy? So that was his second reason. Third reason is, yes, sinful reactions. So when I kill them, I'll get sinful reactions. So I'll go to hell. So I don't want to fight. And fourth reason he gives is destruction of family traditions, because of which people will lose dharma, and then women will get corrupted, and then unwanted progeny will be born, and this unwanted progeny will create a lot of trouble in the society. That is the next reason. C, E, S, D, and I. I means indecision, which are going to see today. Okay. So we will begin the discussion. So So the second chapter is divided into following sections. So when you know the sections, it becomes easy to remember also. Shloka number 1 to 10 is section 1, where Arjuna's further doubts and surrender to Krishna is described. Okay, he presents one more doubt and he surrenders. So that doubt is indecision. Second section is 11 to 30, which is called Jnana section or Sankhya section, where the end conclusion is Arjuna, you fight. Whatever reasons Arjuna had presented, Krishna refutes them and he says, you fight. You did not want to fight in the first chapter, now I say you fight because of reasons which he presents. One of the reasons is there is no death to the soul. That's why you fight. So a lot of details about the knowledge of soul comes in this section. And section number 3 is 31st shloka to 38th shloka, which is Karma Kanda. Okay, even if you don't accept soul, if you are not able to act at the platform of soul, at least do your duty. Okay, what is your duty? As a Kshatriya, your duty is to fight. So you fight. Just do your duty for the sake of doing your duty. That will give you enjoyment. Okay, by doing prescribed duties, you get material enjoyment. That's the third section. And fourth section is verse number 39 to 53, which is called Buddhi Yoga. So he mentions Karma Kanda before, and then he mentions Buddhi Yoga, which is action in knowledge or action without expecting result. Right? So that is Buddhi Yoga, which is also called Nishkama Karma Yoga. Nishkama, without expectation of any result, you do the work. So the Nishkama Karma Yoga is described here. And after describing Nishkam Karma Yoga, Krishna says that a person comes to the stage of Achala Buddhi. He comes to the steady state. So then Arjuna asks a question, what are the characteristics of a person who is steady? So then the last section is Sthita Prajna section or Samadhi section, where a steady person is described. So these are the 5 sections, main sections, in which we will study the second chapter. And very easy to remember the second chapter if you know the acronym Gita, G-I-T-A. There's another way of splitting this chapter. G means Guru, absolute need of a spiritual guide. So Arjuna surrendered to Krishna. That is the first point. I means identity. Who am I? So that is the second section of Gita. Second chapter of Gita, second section of the second chapter. And third is 2 duties, which is conditional duty and constitutional duty, which is the third and the fourth section of the second chapter. And Atmarama means a self-realized person or a steady person. So this is GITA. It's a very simple acronym to remember the second chapter completely. Okay. So I will start with the second chapter. I'll be sharing the first shloka of the second chapter of the Gita. Okay, here it is. So you can kindly repeat after me. Sanjay Uvacha
Sanjay Uvacha
Tata Kripaya Vishtam
Kripaya Vistam
Ashru Purna Kulekshanam Vishidantam Idam Vakyam
Yadantam Idam Vakyam
Vacha Madhusudana.
Vacha Madhusudana.
Madhusudana.
So the translation is like this. Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana Krishna spoke following words. So if you see the last shloka of the previous chapter, it said, Evam Mukto Rishi, Evam Muktva Arjuna Sankhya Ratho Upastha Upavishat. After speaking, Arjuna sat on the Rath. Ratho Upastha Upavishat. Upavishat means to sit. Visrajya Asa Sharam Chapam. He gave up his Gandiva. Sharam. Sharam means the arrows and the bow, chapam is the bow. He kept it. And shoka samvigna manasaha. His mind was filled with lamentation, shoka, and he was very much disturbed. So in this way he sat. The next chapter begins by Arjuna, Sanjay describing tam tata kripaya avishtam. Arjuna was filled with anxiety, right? So Ashru Purna Akula means Ashru. He was having tears in his eyes. Ashru Purna Akula Ikshana. His eyes were full with tears and full of anxiety. Vishidantam idam vakyam. Vacha Madhusudana. Madhusudana speaks the following words to Arjuna. So that's what is the first shloka of the second chapter. So here the word Madhusudana is very important. Okay, Madhusudana. So Krishna is called as Madhusudana. Lord Krishna killed the demon Madhu, and now Arjuna wanted Krishna to kill the demon of misunderstanding that had overtaken him in the discharge of his duty. So all the words which are used in Gita are also very significant. Madhu means the demon of doubt. It represents the demon of doubt. And now Sanjay is going to indicate to Dhritarashtra. Sanjay is indicating here to Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra, you may be feeling happy that Arjuna is confused and he doesn't want to fight. And you might be excited. But don't be excited because Krishna is next to him and he is Madhusudana. He will very soon kill the doubt in the mind of Arjuna and Arjuna will get up and fight. So Sanjay is also subtly indicating to Dhritarashtra that please stop the battle. And Dhritarashtra was the king, and if he wanted, he could have stopped the battle, but he did not because he wanted to capture the property by killing the Pandavas. Right? That's what is indicated in this by this verse actually. So Prabhupada also says that Prabhupada is actually writing here that no one knows where compassion should be applied. Compassion for the dress of a drowning man is useless. A very nice statement actually. Compassion for the dress of a drowning man is useless. Like suppose somebody is drowning in the water and you are standing on the beach and you see him drowning and say, oh, help, help, help. You can only see his hand, head is down in the water. You jump and then you swim, right? And then you're not able to catch the person, you catch the coat and bring and say, I saved the man, I saved the man. Right? But what is the use of saving the coat? The person has drowned already, he's dead. So similarly, saving the body without saving the soul, that is useless. So one should protect the soul. Soul is more important. So the topic of soul is going to come just after 10 shlokas. Topic of soul is going to come. So Prabhupada is giving here the hint to the answer that Krishna is going to speak the science of soul to eradicate Arjuna's false sense of compassion. Okay, because the soul never dies. The body may die, but the soul never dies. That's what will be indicated in the next 10th, 11th shloka onwards. So there's a hint for this here. So in second chapter, mainly what is described here is this chapter instructs us in self-realization by an analytical study of material body and spirit soul, as explained with Supreme Authority, Lord Sri Krishna. See, this analytical study of material body and spirit soul, this is called as Sankhya. See, last time some of you are asking the question, what is Sankhya? Sankhya means this, analytical study of what is spirit and what is matter. Like for example, if you want to understand what is the soul, what is Atma, then you like suppose you see the eyes, and is it the soul? But eyes are dead because it's made of some molecules and cells which are also actually wiring of all the nervous system that is there, but it doesn't have life. If you take out the eyes, it cannot see. Only when it's connected to the body you can see. So eyes has no soul. And you say whether the ears or the head. So from where the consciousness is coming? Is it because of interaction of nervous systems, nervous circuits in the brain. So then one will come to conclusion, no, the brain is like a storage device. How can it produce consciousness or feelings? So then finally, he says, no, whether the body is conscious, no, body is also not conscious, because when we die, all the elements are disintegrated. So the elements don't have consciousness on their own. How can the assembly of elements cause consciousness? So like this, one keeps on analyzing, analytical study of the body. And then he comes to conclusion that consciousness is not coming from this body. There is a separate element called the soul, which produces consciousness. So the consciousness is coming from the soul. So this process by which one analyzes the reality and the temporary things, that is called as Sankhya. That is also called as Neti Neti. Okay, is this the soul? Neti, no. Is this the soul? Is it the spirit? No. Or is this the spirit? No. Like this says no, 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 and finally comes to conclusion, okay, spirit is Atma, Satchidananda Sarupa. So this process is called Sankhya. And Krishna tells this in verse number 11 to verse number 30. Okay. So let's see here ahead. So the second shloka is like this. So I will recite. You can follow. Will not do repetition, but you can just follow me. Shri Bhagavan Kutastva Kashmalamidam Vishame Samupasthitam Anarya Jushtamaswargyam Akirti Karam Arjuna. So Lord Krishna spoke this verse here. So Krishna doesn't speak in the first chapter. He starts speaking from the second chapter. So here he is actually chastising Arjuna in the second and third shloka. Krishna chastises Arjuna. And 11th shloka onwards, he detailed explains up to the end of second chapter. 11th shloka onwards, up to the end of second chapter, Krishna continuously speaks. Arjuna has only one question in between, but all other things Krishna is speaking. So, Kutastva Kashmala Midam, from where this impurity has come to you, from where this false compassion has come within you. Vishame Samupastitam, at this point of time, when you are about to fight, if imagine there's war happening, war about to begin between two countries. Suppose India is fighting with some other country, enemy country. And the commander-in-chief of the Indian army, on whom the entire army is relying, when the war is about to begin, the trumpet has been blown and war signs have been declared, and then he is getting anxiety and he says, I will not fight. Already conch has blown, means the war has started actually officially, but still nobody has started shooting. And at this point of time, Arjuna is feeling anxiety. So Krishna is telling, Vishame Samupastitam, at this point of time, Anarya. This doesn't befit you. Anarya. Arya means a civilized person, one who follows the codes and conducts prescribed for humanity, which is also called Varnashrama Dharma, which we'll discuss in the third and fourth chapter in detail. So Varnashrama system means the system of social and spiritual classes. So this Varnashrama system, one who follows, he is called as Arya. And one who doesn't follow any rules and regulations of humanity, he is called as Anarya. So don't act like an Anarya, he says. Anarya, Jushtam Aswargyam. This will not lead you to Swarga. Right? Generally, people who fight will go to Swarga, but this will not lead you to Swarga. So don't. So this also indicates the answer to the one of the questions of Arjuna about enjoyment. So Anarya Justam Aswargyam Akirti Karam. This will lead you to infamy, Akirti Karam. Arjuna. So this is how he chastises Arjuna a little bit mildly. And then he says, Kshudram Hruday Daurbalyam Klaibyam Masma Gamapartha Naitatvayupapadyate Kshudram Hruday Daurbalyam Tektvotishta Parantapa. And Krishna says, Klaibyam Masma Gamaha. Please don't get into such kind of anxiety now, such kind of problem right now. Partha. So Krishna is using the another word for Arjuna, Partha. Kunti's name is Pritha. And Pritha's son is Partha. Arjuna. Especially it refers to Arjuna, but it can refer to anybody. Yudhishthira, Nakul, Sahadeva, it can refer to anybody because they are also Partha. Specifically in this context, it refers to Arjuna. Klaibe masmagama partha, na etat tvai upapadyate. This doesn't befit you. Kshudram hridaya darbulyam tyaktva. Please give up this weakness of heart. And uttishta parantapa. Get up and conquer your enemies. So the word parantapa is used here. So Prabhupada is writing parantapa means one who chastises the enemies, the chastiser of the enemies. So when you're reading the shloka, you can also refer to, like later on when you're doing self-study, if you can also refer to the word-to-word meanings, it will give more, you can understand it much better actually. Srila Prabhupada has taken such trouble to write all the shlokas in English. So if somebody doesn't know Sanskrit reading, then he can refer to English, and then he can refer to word-to-word meaning, then the translation, and the detailed purport which Prabhupada is writing here. In this way, one can get a very systematic understanding of Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is here telling that give up the hridaya dorbalyam, weakness of the heart. Sometimes it happens with us also that we are about to begin an important task and suddenly we get weakness of heart. I can remember long back in school days when I was told that you should go do some public speaking. And generally they have this public speaking or pick and speak, such kind of thing. So one of my classmate, he was supposed to go for that public speaking program, and he fell sick. And the class teacher called me and he said, so can you go in his place? I said, I never spoken in public till now. No, you go and speak something, prepare nicely and speak. I had prepared some 2-page document with some point-wise things, and I thought I'll go and speak nicely. And when I went on the stage, it's blank out. Right? It happens, right? Has anyone experienced like this? Or when you go for singing for the first time on the stage, or you see a big audience, yeah, so some of you are raising your hands, Likita, Mohit, Pratik, Avni, Harsha, yeah, Dr. Harsha, it happens. Same thing is happening here. So this is called Dorbalyam, weakness. Meenakshi Mataji says, yes sir, for my dance program it happened. We practice nicely, but on the stage we cannot perform, isn't it? So this is weakness of thought because the situation is new. The people may be new and we may feel very strange. So that weakness of the heart has to be overcome by some superior guidance. And somebody is telling many times it happened. So when such thing happens, what happens? The teacher comes and says, pats on the back, hey, please, please, please. Then they'll supply the first line. Then you get some confidence. You speak one word, then one sentence and one paragraph. Then you get a lot of confidence. So we need some guide to help us. So similarly here also Arjuna, he is Parantapa. He has already conquered so many enemies in the past, but he is getting weakness of the heart right now. So for solving this weakness, Krishna, he is chastising Arjuna, and later he will give a lot of wonderful instructions to Arjuna. So after speaking these 2 shlokas, Arjuna again gives a third reason. Whatever you say, Arjuna, Krishna, but I am going to fight. I am not going to fight. I am not going to fight. What is the reason? Arjuno vacha katam bhishmam aham sankhye dronam cha madhusudana ishubhi pratiyotsyami pujarha varisudana. Krishna, Bhishma and Drona are my worshipable teachers. Puja arha. They are worshipable to me. How can I shoot arrows at them? So that's what Arjuna is telling. It is a very valid reason because they were superiors, right? And then he says, Gurun ahatva hi mahanubhavan shreyo bhoktum bhaksham api haloke. Arjuna is telling, by not killing my superiors, gurus, who are great souls, mahanubhavan shreyo bhoktum, I'll be happy. He says, bhaksham, I'll be happy by begging. Bhaksham api haloke. Means Arjuna is better fighting, killing them. Let me take a begging bowl and do bhiksha. Means let me accept the renounced order and take bhiksha. Generally, renounced order sannyasis, they used to take bhiksha bowl and then go home to home and beg some alms. Right? So why they take bhiksha? Because they want to engage people in Lord service, because he is engaged in Lord service. He takes Bhiksha and offers all their items in the Lord service, because generally people are selfish. They want to hold. So when sadhus go and beg, so whatever they give, they engage it in Lord service, so they get spiritual benefit. So begging they don't do for filling their stomach, but begging they do for benefiting the giver. Okay. So Arjuna thought, let me do that. Let me go to the forest or beg. Hatvartha kamamstu guru inahaiva bunjiya bhogan rudra. And if I kill these people in front of me, then everything will be tainted by blood. How can we enjoy that? So that's what Arjuna said. So very valid reasons he gives. And then this is the shloka where he says, I'm not able to decide now. On one side, Krishna, you're telling you fight, right? Shudram hurdaya dorbalim tektu uttishta. Get up and fight, Krishna said in the third shloka. And Arjuna said, I don't want to fight. So now he's confused what to do. Nachaitat vidmah kataranno gariyo. I don't know which is better. Gariya means better. Out of these two, fighting and not fighting, which is better, I cannot decide. Yadva jayema, yadiva na jayeyu. Should I conquer victory over them, or should we be conquered by them? I don't know what is best. Yane vahatva narji vishamas tevastita pramukhe dhartarashtra. So by killing them, how can we enjoy? Right? We cannot live actually by killing these people. So then he gets fully confused. And then the 8th shloka is very important, which is the theme of the first section, Guru. Okay, so here very important shloka actually, 2.8, and this is also one of the shlokas for memorization. So in the previous chapter we had small shlokas, but in this chapter onwards we'll get some little bigger shlokas also, like this one. And the meter for this is like this. Karpanya dosho pahatas svabhava prachami tvam dharma sammuda cheta yasreyasya nishchitam brohitanme Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. So Arjuna is telling Krishna, I am very confused. Karparnya dosho apahata svabhava. Apahata means my mind is like taken away, or Prabhupada says here, being afflicted. Karpanya dosho apahata svabhava prachami. I am asking you this question. Prichhami tvam dharma sammuda cheta. See, this word dharma sammuda is used, which is equivalent to dharma sankata. And sometimes you might have heard the word dharma sankat, right? So dharma sankata means there are two things to decide. Both appear to be correct. Now which one to choose, right? So which one to choose, we cannot decide. Yeah, sorry, it's the 7th shloka, correct? 7th shloka. So, dharma sammuda cheta yashreyasya nishchitam bruhitanme. Please tell me which is the best path, shreya, nishchitam bruhitanme, shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapanam. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you, kindly instruct me. This is what he says. So now I will show you one PPT which gives the important points from this purport. There is a big purport, so I'll just show them important points from here. So this is a PPT made by our Siksha Guru, Radheshyam Prabhu. Yeah. So it's 2.7. So thank you, Shreya, for correcting the shloka number. Yeah. So 7th shloka he says, Yashreyasya nishchitam bruhitanme. Please tell me what is Shreyas for me. Shreya means ultimate victory or ultimate goal. And Preya means short-term goals. So the Shreyas and Preyas. So we should aim for Shreyas, not Preyas. And short-term goals means, okay, I want to be a topper in the class. That is short-term goal. Or I want to be a rich man. That is also short-term goal. Or I want to have a big bungalow for myself. That is also short-term goal, because it is within the time frame of this one life, isn't it? So when this life is over, then it's gone. So what is long-term goal? Long-term goal means attaining the spiritual world, attaining the Lord. That is called long-term goal. So we should attain that Shreyas. So Arjun is asking, please tell me what is Shreyas Kara to me? What is best for me? I am your disciple. Shishyasteham. Now I become your disciple. Shadimam Tvam Prapannam. Please instruct me. Shadimam means please give me instructions on what is to be done. Tvam Prapannam. I am surrendered to you. So in this way, Arjuna surrenders. We'll come back to the shloka 8, but we'll discuss from shloka 7. So there, Prabhupada says in the purport, there are two kinds of people, Kripana and Brahmana. Kripana means one who is a miser. Kripan means what? He has money, but he will not spend. It's called Kripana. Right? In comics, there's one character called Uncle Scrooge. Right? Donald Duck, Uncle Scrooge is Kripana. He has a lot of money, In childhood, we used to see that, cartoon. And you'll see him swimming in the coins. So much money. But he'll not give a broken coin to others. So stingy he is. That's called Kripana. So materially speaking, he is called as a Kripana. But spiritually speaking, who is a Kripana? So Kripana means a person who has got this human body, but he is not using it in the service of the Lord. He is called as a Kripana. Because human body is very valuable, very rare it is. Durlabham manusham janma tadapi adurlabham artadam, right? Kaumaramacharet pragyo dharman bhagavatan viha durlabham manusham janma tadapi adhruvam artadham. Prahlad Maharaj says. This human body is very rare and it is very valuable. First of all, it is rare. 84 lakh species are there. Out of that, human species is one. Very rare. And then artadham, it's very valuable and it's temporary because we die after 70, 80 years. We die. Anytime death may come. We don't know. So that's why one should not use his body for sense gratification. One should use his body for spiritual realization. So a person who uses his body for only material things, he is called as a Kripana. And one who utilizes this body for spiritual advancement, he is called as a Brahmana. So that's the main difference between Kripana and Brahmana. So Brahmana is one who is intelligent and utilizes the human body to solve the real problems of life. So he is called broad-minded. He is a Brahmana. So generally in India, we have the conception of Brahmana means one who is born in a Brahman family and wearing a sacred thread. Generally people consider him to be a Brahmana. But there is a deeper definition given by Krishna in Gita, which says that anybody who has wonderful qualities of a Brahmana, he is called as a Brahmana. Shamodamah tapashaucham kshantirarjavam evacha, right? Jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma swabhavajam. So brahma karma swabhavajam. So qualities of a Brahmana are mentioned there. He should be intelligent, he should know the Shastras, he should be clean, he should have mind control, he should have sense control. Shamodamah tapaha, he should have he should be austere. Shaucham shantir, he should be peaceful and he should be simple, right? He should be tolerant. So these are the qualities. Anybody who has these qualities, he is also called as a Brahmana. And this is the main definition of a Brahmana. And such people wear thread and then do some pujas and different rituals. So they are called Brahmanas. Just by putting a thread, somebody doesn't become a Brahmana. Right? Nowadays we see people put thread also and they do everything. Right? They eat meat also, they drink also, they smoke also. Right? Sometimes in colleges we see some students who are born in Brahman family, they have thread also, but while eating meat, they will remove the thread and again take bath and wear it. So what kind of culture is that? So Brahmana is big qualities. So here the definition of Brahmana means one who is searching for the Shreyas or absolute truth. That is called Brahmana. So that is the 7th shloka. So then 8th shloka, Arjuna says, I don't know how to remove this grief from my heart. You please tell me. Like this, Arjuna surrenders to Krishna. So now when Arjuna surrendered to Krishna, then Krishna starts instructing. Till now, Krishna is just smiling and listening. He is not instructing. Because Krishna is waiting for the right moment to give the instruction to Arjuna. Sometimes you also see that if one of you is a mother or a teacher, you will see that sometimes you see a child making mistake, but you will not correct him immediately. Why? Because if you correct him immediately, then he may not take it properly. So and that correction may have no effect. So you will wait for the right time and then give the correction. Then it will work, isn't it? Similarly, Krishna is also not giving instructions to Arjuna because he wants Arjuna to surrender. Because Arjuna had a friendly relationship with Krishna. And between friends, you cannot talk very serious things, isn't it? So only between teacher and disciple, there can be serious talk. So Arjuna when he surrendered, then Krishna thought, okay, now I can tell him serious things. So then he starts telling. Okay. So that comes here. So Sanjay tells to Dhritarashtra, Evam muktva Hrishikesham Gudakesha Parantapa Nayot Saiti Govindam Uktva Tusnim Babuvaha. So after telling that I'll not fight, Arjuna became silent. Now Dhritarashtra is becoming excited. Yeah, Arjuna is again not telling I'll not fight. Wonderful. Then Sanjay is using the word Hrishikesham. Hrishikesha is there with Arjuna. Dhritarashtra. Arjuna's senses are now disturbed, but Krishna is master of the senses. Rishika means senses, Isha means master. So Krishna is very soon going to control Arjuna's senses. So don't get excited. Like that Sanjay is telling to Dhritarashtra. And then, Tamuvacha Rishikeshaha Prahasanniva Bharata. Now Krishna smiles. Smile indicates, Prahasan means a mild smile. So which indicates that Krishna is thinking in his mind. Arjuna, I was waiting for this moment. Now here. Senayorubhayor madhye vishidantam idam vachaha. So in between the armies, Krishna starts speaking. So here one important point to be noted is, it appears that the talks between the master and disciple was openly exchanged in the presence of both the armies, so that all were benefited. See, some people in TV and all, they show that when Krishna was speaking to Arjuna, they stopped the time and nobody was able to hear. Only Arjuna was able to hear. Like that some people show. But here the Acharyas tell that no, everybody is able to hear. Right? It was an open talk, so that it was meant for everybody. Like Sanjay was able to hear far away, was sitting far away, able to hear. Why not people on the battlefield of Kurukshetra? They were also able to hear. Some could understand and some could not understand Bhagavad Gita. Right? Those who had devotion to Krishna, they could understand Gita. But those who were envious, they could not understand an iota of what Krishna was speaking. Okay. So this is open discussion. So then Prabhupada says, this is meant for everybody. So this shows that Bhagavad Gita, so the talks of Bhagavad Gita are not for any particular person, society or community, but they are for all, and friends or enemies are equally entitled to hear them. Okay, so Bhagavad Gita is meant for everybody, not just Indians, but to everybody in this world. Anybody can hear this. So now starts the section of Sankhya Yoga from this shloka onwards. So let me go to the PPT. Yeah. So till now we covered the first topic, which is Gita. G. G means Guru. We need a Guru. So Krishna became the Guru of Arjuna. And Arjuna became the disciple of Krishna. So absolute necessity of a Guru. So why do we need a Guru? Because we cannot solve certain problems on our own. Right? Can you mention some problems which cannot be solved by anybody in this world? Are there some problems, like mathematics problems can be solved by your teacher? Maybe electronics problems can be solved by some engineers. Or you want to make a bridge, so that problem can be solved by somebody. Yeah, Surya is telling here, birth, death, old age, disease. Okay, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Rishikesh is telling, Meenakshi is telling, mental agony. Correct. Mental agony is also disease. So birth, death, old age, disease cannot be removed from this earth, from our life. It's there. Right? We get old. Then we see that no. Initially the hairs are black, then they become white. and then we have 32, all the teeth intact, but eventually 32 all out. And then wrinkles. When we are young, we have nice, beautiful, tight skin, but after some time, we become wrinkled, and this cavity goes inside. Right? Sangam galitam phalitam mundam dashanavihinam jatum tundam vruddhayati grhatva dandam. And old age comes where you have to hold the stick. Tadapina munchati asha pindam. So the Shankaracharya says the symptoms of old age. So birth, death, old age, death also cannot be solved. Like even doctors cannot solve somebody who is severely sick, isn't it? So they say you pray to God. Yeah, somebody is telling natural disasters, correct? We cannot solve natural disasters. We cannot solve pandemics. We cannot fight much with them, isn't it? And yeah, natural calamities. So these are the things. So adhibhautika, adhyatmika, adhidevika kleshas. So adhyatmika means body and mind's problems. Adhidaivika means natural calamities. Adhibhautika means problems caused by other people or insects or terrorists. That's called as adhibhautika. India is losing 4 centimeters which joins Himalayas every year. It's the nature of India, something there. Yeah. So some things we cannot solve actually. So in this way, but these problems can be solved by surrendering to a spiritual master, Guru. Because Guru is not from this world, he is from the spiritual world. And these problems are particular to this world. In that world, there are no problems. These problems are absent. So we should try to go to that world. And Guru can take us from this world to that world. So that's what is described in this section. Okay, Gita, yeah. So we need a Guru. Then we need, Guru tells us what is your identity. Who are you? Okay. We already covered this in our Bring Out the Best in You series. Just rush through this second section. If you ask a question, who are you? What would be your answer? Generally, people say, my name is so and so. I'm from this place. I belong to this community. I'm a man. I'm a woman. These things, but these are all temporary, because one scientist he analyzed the chemical composition of the body, and then he said that actually our body is just 110 rupees worth. Right? But is the body only 110 rupees worth? No, it is much more. It is invaluable. Right? We are not just made of chemicals. We are the spirit soul. Right? So somebody may be beautiful, but when they die, there is a beauty gone. Nobody will touch. Same chemicals are there, but there are no feelings, no desires, no thinking, no movement, no consciousness. Same body, but the soul is gone. Right? This is even scientifically or by using our common sense, we can prove the presence of soul. If you see here, you can see this. Now, a young man is there. He becomes old. He becomes very old. Then he dies, and then he's born again. Right? The soul continues its journey from one body to another body. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. So there is no aja. Soul is called aja. It is not born. But the body of the soul is born, but the soul itself is not born. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. So this Bhagavad Gita says this sloka will come soon. Ajo nityashashvatoyam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Bhagavad Gita 2.20 says that soul is eternal. It's unborn. It's ever existing. It's primeval. It's not slain when the body is slain. Means when you kill the soul, when you kill the body, the soul is not killed. So Krishna is telling this to Arjuna, indicating that you may shoot at the bodies of Drona, Bhishma, Duryodhana and other envious people. You may destroy their body, but you will not destroy them. They will continue to exist in the next body. So that's what he says. This is a famous photo which all of you know. So difference between body and matter, body and soul. Body is matter, soul is spirit. Body is not conscious, soul is conscious. Body changes, soul does not change. Body is temporary, soul is eternal. Body is dead, but soul is alive. Yeah. So here you see, in the region of the heart, the soul is sitting and is seeing through the eyes, hearing through the ears, right? And walking through the legs and handling items through the hands, like that. So this real driver of the body is the soul. So in the Sankhya section, verse number 11 to 30, basically Krishna is speaking this only. So Krishna is saying, don't lament for the body unnecessarily, because body is anyway going to die. So a very interesting point Krishna is telling. Now you are telling that you don't want to kill them, but do you think they'll never die? Even if you don't kill them, soon after a few years they'll surely die, because anybody who is born has to die. Jata sihi dhruva mrityum. Right? So soon they will going to die. So now with the body, with the sinful body, they are doing sinful activities. But when you kill them, then their sinful activities will stop and they'll get a better body in next life. So that's the argument Krishna puts here. He says this. So then he says, we are all eternal. Me, you, and all these kings, they are all eternal. We have been in the past, we are currently present, and in the future also will continue to exist. But we don't remember what we were in the past. In the 4th chapter of Gita, we'll discuss this point. Why we don't remember what happened in the past. Arjuna raises this question, and Krishna answers this in the 4th chapter of Gita. But here we can understand that you are eternal, I am eternal, and all these kings are eternal. Okay, very important point here to understand that we are all individual, we are all separate. I am not you, you are not me. Some people say that I am you, you are me, and we are God. That's what they say. Somebody is typing here, Aham Brahmasmi. Shreya is typing. Yeah, Aham Brahmasmi. Yes, I am Brahman. The soul is Brahman, but we are not Parabrahman. That should be understood clearly. We are individual, but we are tiny individuals. But God is also individual, but He's a super individual. He's a big individual. We are tiny fragments, just like fire and the spark of fire. The spark of fire is also fiery. Like, for example, when you light a bonfire, some sparks may come and fall on your hands. It may burn your hand, but very slightly. It will be scratched, that's all. But the fire can burn the whole body. Similarly, Atma is like a fragment of God, but we are not God. And we are also separate individual souls. We are also not one. You are not me, I am not you. Because if we both were one, then I would be knowing what is happening in your mind, and you would be knowing what is happening in my mind and each other's, isn't it? But that's not happening because we are individual, separate souls. So that has to be very clear. And some people say that after attaining moksha, we become God. But Krishna says here through this shloka that we don't become God, but we continue to exist with God as a family member of God in the spiritual world. So then he says, yeah, so I'll just go to the shloka. Yeah. Then he says that actually the soul is already changing its bodies. Generally, people lament when the person dies. Suppose a person dies today, then immediately they start crying, oh, he's gone. How can I talk to him? How can I meet him? He's gone. They keep crying. But actually, Arjuna, right now also in our own body, the changes are happening. Like you see in this photograph, once we were a small baby, then we grew up. So the baby's body is gone and a young body has come. The young man also dies and he becomes adult. So do we lament for the change of body? Then why are we lamenting for the change or the change which happens at the time of death? Right? This is the shloka he tells here. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatrana muhyati. So just like we don't lament because of the change of body in this life, we should not lament when a person dies, because he will get a new body, fresh body, young body. Right? So generally when we become old, we get wrinkles and body is weak, we cannot eat. Even if we eat, we cannot digest. So all these problems are there. But you'll get a new body where you can have a healthy life. So why should we lament? So this is also one of the shlokas for memorization for this week. Yeah, so like this 6 changes are undergone birth, growth, maintenance, production of byproducts, dwindling, and death, which we already discussed this in the Bring Out the Best in series. This also we discussed. From material point of view, we see only bodies, but from spiritual point of view, we see the soul within. Right? We see the soul within the body, not just the body. So another analogy, famous analogy, just like a car cannot move without the driver. Similarly, your body cannot move without the soul. So soul is present. He is the driver sitting in the region of the heart. I am able to speak because my soul is powering my body to speak. Otherwise, I cannot speak. I am able to hear you or see you because my eyes are functioning, because soul is making it function. Otherwise, I'm dead. Isn't it? Body is always dead. Only when the soul is present in the body acts alive. Right? So the analogy is here, the parrot in the cage. So actually here it is told to distinguish between the living body and dead body. So like a bird in the cage, the soul is trapped in the body made up of 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. So the cage is the body made of Panchamahabhuta, but inside is the soul. If you take care of the body but forget to feed the soul, then the soul will be distressed. It will not die, but it will be distressed and it will be in anxiety. So by attending courses like this, we can feed our soul. Okay, what is the proof of soul's existence? When a person dies, we say he passed away. Who has passed away? All the molecules are intact in front of you, but the soul has passed away. Right? And we also discussed many examples of consciousness. Right? A robot or a camera cannot have consciousness, but we have consciousness. When we see a sunrise, we can say it's so beautiful, but camera cannot say it's beautiful, right? Because consciousness is missing. Near-death experience, out-of-body experiences, we saw all this. So if you want more information, you can refer to our Bring Out the Best in series lecture on the third module, Science of Soul. You can get more information of this. Out-of-body experiences and all, yeah. So understanding that I am spirit soul, Krishna says you tolerate these dualities. They'll come and go, just like winter and summer season. Like now it is rainy season. You have to carry an umbrella. After this winter season will come, so you have to wear a sweater. And after this summer season will come, so you have to wear some thin cotton clothes and then tolerate the heat. It keeps on changing. Right? Somebody likes winter, somebody likes summer, somebody likes rainy season. So it's all dualities. So Krishna says, right, don't get disturbed by these things. They'll come and go. Understand that you are spirit soul and tolerate this dualities which will come. Dualities are like here: matra, sparsha, astu, kaunteya, shita, ushna, cold and heat, sukha, dukkha, happiness and distress, right? Agama, apayano, anitya. So these will come and go, and they're temporary, just like seasons. They'll come and go. Tam, stitikshasva, tolerate this, Arjuna, like that he says. And if you can tolerate this, then you can attain sukham, amritatvaya kalpate. Yam hina vyatyantyete purusham purusharshava. Sama dukkha sukham dhiram somritatvaya kalpate. When you understand that you are spirit soul and happiness and distress are coming to the body, not to us. They come to this body. Cold is felt by the body, not by the soul. So when you are situated in the self-realization of the soul, they will not be disturbed by the dualities of the world. Then you can attain Amritattva. You can go to the spiritual world. That Krishna says. And he further elaborates this actually. So only few important shlokas we will be discussing about the soul. Najayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavitava na bhuyah ajo nitya shashvatoyam purana na hanyate hanyamane sharire. We already saw this in the PPT. He is Aja, Krishna, soul is Aja, unborn, Nitya, eternal, Shashvata, again eternal. Purana, very old. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. When the body dies, soul will not die. So this should give us great confidence that we continue to exist in the future. So there is no need to lament. Even if death comes, we can happily, peacefully cross over it or step on it and go to the next life. Right? So there is no need to lament unnecessarily. And he says, no one can kill the soul. Right? Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, nachenam klidayantyapo, nashoshati marutaha. It cannot be cut into pieces. It cannot be burnt by fire. It can be moistened by wind. So it's eternal. It cannot be destroyed. Then Krishna gives a beautiful analogy. Just like when the clothes become old, we give up the clothes and take a new clothes. And we don't lament for throwing the old clothes. As clothes have become old, we throw it. And you need a replacement. So we take a new one. Similarly, the body is also like a cloth over the soul. So when the body becomes old and unfit, then the soul gives up the body and takes a new body. So there's a simple analogy given by Krishna to help us understand. Okay. So there are many additional slides of reincarnation. That how so many books are written about soul's transmigration to the next soul, next life. And how many of you remember that video which we showed of a boy who was a pilot in the last life and he could remember how to run the pilot? Yeah, Darshan says he's able to remember. Okay, many of you are able to remember. Anuradha and Nishchal. Thank you. So that proves that we are eternal. We don't die. And based upon our karma and our desires which we have in our life, we continue in the next life. Right? Yeah, one guy playing music, the small drummer, Cole Robbins, I think. He was just 3.5 year, 4 year old, and he's playing such wonderful drums. It's coming from his past life. So these are some of the examples of past life memories. And we also saw about phobias and difference in the temperament of twins and Shukla story, right? So Shukla story also, we saw Indian girl who remembered her past life. All those things you can recollect. So here he says from verse number 23 to 25, soul cannot be cut by weapons, it cannot be burned by fire, cannot be moistened by water, cannot be withered by wind. It's unbreakable, cannot be burnt. It's insoluble, you cannot put it in water and dissolve it. It cannot be tried. It's everlasting. Exists everywhere, unchangeable. It's immovable. Achaloyam sanatana. And it is imperceivable. You cannot see it with a microscope or a lens. It's an immutable, avikarya. And thus, knowing it to be thus, you should not grieve for the body. Tasmadevam viditvenam nanu sochitum arhasi. So this is the assurance which Krishna is giving to Arjuna. So that's the second section, GI. I means identity. Who am I? So after telling about the identity, Krishna goes on to tell about another reason why you should fight. So one reason to fight is knowing that you are soul, you fight because their soul is not going to be killed. Now Arjuna is still confused. So Krishna says, okay, I'll tell you another reason. Another reason is by doing your duty, you'll become successful. Okay. So the two duties, one is conditional duty and another is constitutional duty. Conditional duty is our duty as a child or a father or a mother because of where we are born. That's conditional. And constitutional is our duty to the Supreme Lord. So conditional duty leads to Shreya, he says. Conditional duty leads to Shreya. I'll go to the shloka here. So swadharmapi chavekshya na vikampitum arhasi dharmadi yuddhashriyonya kshatriyasya na vidyate. For a kshatriya, the shreya is to fight. Don't run away from fighting. Then he says, and who is a kshatriya? Kshatriya means one who protects others from pain. That is a kshatriya. Kshat trayate. Kshat means pain, then trayate means to liberate. One who liberates people from pain. That's called kshatriya. And a kshatriya should become happy when he gets the opportunity for fighting. And that will open the door for Swarga. Swargadvaram apavritam. And such kshatriyas who get the opportunity of fighting are happy. Sukhina kshatriya pata labhante yuddham idrisham. He says. Then he says, if you run away from this battle, what people will talk about you? You will get, you will give up your dharma then you will give up your kirti also. Your fame will also be gone. So that is very specifically told here. Akirtim chapi bhutani katishyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya chakirti maranadatirichyate. People will talk ill about you, they will insult you, and because of that, you will lose your fame. And when you lose your fame, that is worse than killing. Then that's worse than being killed. For a Kshatriya, if you insult him, that's worse than death. Like for example, our Ashwathama, he was not killed, but the money was removed and his hair was cut and he was sent off. That was worse than death actually. So being insulted is worse than death. So that's a fight, Arjuna. And people will think that you have left this battle because of fear. And out of fear you have run away and they will talk ill about you. So please don't run away from this battle, he says. And then they will talk ill about you. Avachya vadamscha bhun vadishyanti tavahita. And nindantas tava samarthyam. They will underestimate your power. And that will be very painful for you, Arjuna. If you beg by leaving this battle, that's more painful for you than fighting or than being killed. Fight. Then he gives a very ultimate reason of this section. He says, if you win, okay, you'll enjoy the earth. But if you die in case, still you will go to Swarga. So there is no need of lamentation. It's beautiful. Hato aprapsisi Swargam jitva va bhokshase mahim. If you are killed, you go to Swarga and enjoy. So there's one benediction for everybody who fights a Dharma Yuddha, that they will go to Swarga. So it's a wonderful opportunity. So you'll go to Swarga. But if in case if you win, you'll become the king of this planet. So what is the loss? Fight. Tasma uttishta kaunteya yuddhaya krita nishchaya. Now you fight, he says. So this is the second time Krishna is telling you fight. So here he defeats the Arjuna's argument of enjoyment. Because Arjuna is thinking, what will happen to my enjoyment? How can I enjoy? By killing all these people. He says, no, still you'll enjoy because you'll go to Swarga or you'll enjoy this world. So in this way he defeats the second argument. But it is not the ultimate point here. Now next section, where he tells about Nishkama Karma Yoga, there it's more detailedly explained, and that's much higher argument than what Krishna is presenting here. But this may appear to be selfish, right? Okay, I'll go to Swarga, that's why I'll fight. But then Krishna presents the point in the next section telling that you don't fight for yourself, you fight for the sake of me. Fight for the sake of God, he says. And when you fight for me, then you'll not get any reaction. Because another point Arjuna made was, when I fight, I'll get reaction and I'll kill. Then I'll go to hell. So what will happen to my happiness? And because I'll be doing sin and I'll go to hell. Then Krishna says, if you fight on my order, then you'll not get any sin. Like for example, if a soldier is fighting on the border and he kills the enemies, he is given award, he is not punished. Similarly, if somebody is fighting on the will of the Lord, then he will not get any reactions. He is spared of all these reactions and he is given a medal. So here, the Supreme Lord wanted Arjuna to fight. So Krishna is assuring Arjuna that you will not get any reactions. So continue your fighting. Is it clear? So that's the point which is mentioned in this section of Gita. Okay. So I'll come here to this slide where you can see this. So whatever I told just now is here. I'll send the photo of this. All the 5 arguments of Arjuna are countered by Krishna here. Okay. First argument was compassion for friends and relatives. Answer is you are the soul, you are not the body. So fight. Soul and body are different. No enjoyment even if victorious. Oh, you will win. If you win, you will enjoy this world. If you die, you will go to Swarga and enjoy. So there is no loss. Then he is telling, I'll get sinful reactions. Then he says, no, by not fighting, you will get sinful reactions. But by fighting on my order, you will not get any reactions. So then Fourth argument, destruction of family traditions, which is going to come now in the next section. Krishna says, attached to Krishna, not Vedic rituals. So in the Vedas, a lot of family traditions are mentioned. But when you are following Krishna consciousness, you can surpass those family traditions, and by practicing Krishna consciousness and giving up certain family traditions which are not required, you will not get any sinful reactions. That's what he says. And the last question he had, last doubt he had was indecision. That's answered in 2.41, where Krishna says, with one consciousness, with one pointed focus, you fight for me, fight for Guru. You do your duty for Krishna and Guru. That's what he says. So in this way, all the 5 questions are answered by Krishna here. Is it clear? So, yeah, this we already discussed. Yeah. So from here starts the Nishkama Karma Yoga, which is also called Buddhi Yoga. Okay. So some 2-3 important shlokas are in this section. From shloka number 39 up to 53, we'll take some 2-3 important shlokas. And one of the most famous shlokas comes here, Karmanyavadikaraste. So what is Buddhi Yoga or Nishkama Karma Yoga? Means doing your duty without expecting anything in return. Doing your duty without expectation will purify you. Okay, for example, somebody is doing a duty for earning money. Okay, he is doing his duty and maintaining his family or fulfilling his needs by earning money. But much higher than that is doing one's duty without expecting anything. Like there are many social servants who work for the country or the people, but they don't expect anything in return. They just keep giving. And whatever comes on their own, they take it. Right? So that is called Nishkama Karma. Doing duty without expecting anything in return. That will make us happy and successful. That's what Krishna is telling. And Krishna is telling to Arjuna, don't get carried away by so many instructions given in Vedas about material enjoyment that will disturb you. Please don't get into that track of karma kanda, but get into the track of spirituality. So that he tells here. Yeah, here he says. So intelligence, one pointed versus many branched. For those who are fixed in Krishna consciousness, their aim is one, which is to go back to Godhead. But those who are wanting material enjoyment, their intelligence is multi-branched and they are never peaceful. That's what Krishna says here. See, some section of the Vedas say, you do this yajna, you'll go to heaven. And some other section says, you do this yajna, you'll get dhanam, janam, sundarim. And you do this yajna, you'll get freed from Rahu dosha or Shani dosha, and this many things are given. And people keep trying. If one doesn't work, they go to another, then another, then another. So a lot of disturbance is there. So, but here Krishna is telling, be one-pointed and just serve me. Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana. Just serve the Guru, serve the Krishna. Then everything else will be taken care of. You don't have to worry. So that one-pointed intelligence Krishna is giving here to Arjuna. Okay. So those who are attached to sense gratification cannot have fixed intelligence. Okay, so we'll discuss this one important shloka here. So kindly repeat. Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturpur mate sangostva karmani. So this is the most famous shloka. How many of you have heard this shloka before? Anyone heard this shloka before? Okay, many of you have heard. Okay, let's try to analyze the meaning. Many people know only the first line. Karmanyevadikaraste, karma karna chahiye. But they don't know the next 3 lines. There's only 1/4 of the shloka. Karma karna chahiye. So do whatever duty. You're a thief, do your thievery. That's what people understand. Karmanyevadikaraste. But no, there are many details given here. Let's analyze it by breaking down this shloka. See here. Okay. Be detached from results, not goals. Karmanyavadhikarasti. We have a right to do the work, which what it is referred to, right? If you are a student, you do your studies or job or whatever it is. Work is performed in the world not only for material results but also spiritual results. Okay. So practicing spiritual knowledge will purify you and rise you to the level of soul. Okay. So the purpose of work is not just to earn money but also develop wisdom and not just acquisition of fruits of the work. So that's one thing. Karmanyavadhikarasti. Karma karna chahiye. Ma phaleshu kadachana. But we don't have the rights for the fruits of our karma. Right? One of the reasons is because fruits are not dependent upon our endeavor. Sometimes other factors are there. Sometimes two students may study same number of hours, same subjects, but may get different marks. Why? Because fruits are not in our hands. Right? Ma phaleshu kadachana. So don't, you can keep some goal as a result, but do your endeavor, because endeavor is in your hands, and whatever results come, you have to accept it. That's the meaning of ma phaleshu kadachana. Then he says, ma karma phala heturbhur, the third point here. One should not think himself producer of the fruits. Okay, ma karma phala hetu. Hetu means the cause. Because I am working, I have got the result. No. You have done your work, but results is given by somebody else. So don't think you are the hetu. You are the cause of the result. That means do not think that you are the only cause of the result. There are other factors also. In this way, one can remain detached. Now one may say, अरे मैं काम करना चाहिए, but काम का जो फल है उसको expect नहीं करना चाहिए, और जो result आता है, I am not the doer, I am not the cause, then why should I work? I'll not do any work, I'll just keep quiet. Mate sangosto karmani, you cannot sit quiet, you have to do something. Because the nature of soul is, it is always active. So do this work. So this is the complete shloka actually. Right? So one should do work without expectation of a particular result. We can keep it as a goal, but whatever results come, we should happily accept it. Then only we will be peaceful. That's called Nishkama Karma Yoga. Nishkama means without expectation of results. So that work should be done. Then that will lead to enlightenment. Right? Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhi asiddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. So definition of yoga is given here. When you do your work, whether you get victory or defeat, continue doing your work. That's called yoga. Sometimes what happens, we do some endeavor, we don't get result, we give up work. No, that's not recommended. Whether siddhi or asiddhi, continue your work because that has been told to do. Right? That has been prescribed for me. Like for a Kshatriya, whether he wins or loses, he has to fight. Sometimes he may win, sometimes he may lose. But his duty is fighting, so he should not give up. Similarly, for a Brahmana, Patan Patan Yajan Yajan, teaching and doing yajnas or helping others do yajnas or doing Sankirtan. So that is Brahmana's duty. Right? Whether 2 people come or whether 100 people come, he has to teach. That is his duty. So result doesn't matter. What matters is his duty. So that's called yoga. So that's the definition given here by Krishna. And Hanuman also did his duty nicely by jumping and finding Sita. So then Krishna says, see, this becomes this shloka, 49 shloka is the connection to the next chapter, where Krishna is telling to Arjuna, Dure nahi avaram karma, keep away sinful activities by buddhi yoga dhananjaya, buddho sharanam anvicha karmana phala hetava. So Krishna tells here that you keep away sinful activities, and Arjuna thinks, okay, I should keep away fighting. And next shloka he says you fight. Then Arjuna is confused. Then third chapter, this doubt Arjuna asks, and then the chapter continues, third chapter. See, this is how one should be inquisitive. If some doubt is there, we should ask and clarify. Then our doubts will be clarified and then we can do our duty properly. So Arjuna is acting like a very good student and is asking questions, relevant questions. That we'll see in the next chapter, third chapter, next week. So by doing Buddhi Yoga, you'll not get any reactions and he'll become very fixed up in consciousness. So that's called as Samadha Vachala Buddhi. 53rd sloka, one becomes Samadha Vachala Buddhi. He gets steady intelligence because by doing Nishkama Karma Yoga, knowledge has come up that I am spirit, soul, part and parcel of God. Right? Sometimes we hear theoretically that I am soul, but we cannot realize. But by doing this Nishkama Karma for Krishna, one will understand that I am spirit, soul. We get that realization. Then he becomes fixed up in the soul. And then he becomes steady, Achala Buddhi, fixed intelligence. Now when Arjuna heard Achala Buddhi, oh, can you tell me examples of people who are having Achala Buddhi? What are the symptoms of a person having Achala Buddhi or Sthita Prajna? So there's another word of Achala Buddhi is Sthita Prajna. So then he has this question here. So 4 questions he asks, and the last 20 shlokas, about 18 shlokas describe Sthita Prajna. Okay, so this is the last section of this chapter. Ka bhasha, Sthita Prajna ka bhasha, what are his general symptoms? Kim prabhasheta, how does he speak? Kim asita, how does he sit? And prajata kim, how does he walk? These 4 things. Generally, when you want to find out the qualities of a person, you see his activities. By seeing his activities, you can find out who is he. Similarly, if you want to see a fixed up devotee, you have to see his activities. So what are the activities? Let's see. So let's answer these 4 questions, and that will be the end of today's session. And yeah, and I've also given some small talks on this actually in our Gita Wisdom series. We will share that also during the week. You can go through that series also. And that talk is mainly based on this section of Sthita Prajna, how to become steady in the mind. So general symptoms is this one. He gives up all material desires of sense gratification born of mental concoction. And thus purified in mind, one finds satisfaction in self alone. Right? Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmanyevatmana tushta sthita prajnastadochate. Right? He doesn't need anything from outside to make him happy. He is happy within himself. And generally we think that I want to acquire certain things, then I'll be happy. But no. One who knows how to connect himself with God, he is actually happy. So that's what we can learn from this. That is general symptom of a Sthita Prajna. Okay. Okay, this will not discuss much. Yeah. So next question is, how does he speak? What is talk? Talk means when he is insulted or when he is glorified, how does he respond to that? So that's the next question. So here is the answer. He is equipoised in happiness and distress. Even if he gets happiness, he is equipoised. He is not elated. And when he gets distress, he is not too much disturbed or frustrated. That's the first quality. Second, he is free from attachment, fear and anger. Right? Raga, Dvesha, he is free from. And Krodha also is free from. Means when he is insulted, he will not respond with anger. Right? Here, Prahlad Maharaj photo is put here. When Prahlad Maharaj was tried to kill, right? Hiranyakashipu tried to kill him, but still he was not disturbed. He was peaceful. That's the quality of a devotee. And is unaffected by good and evil and firmly fixed in the perfect knowledge. Right? Like Hiranyakashipu tried to disturb Prahlad, but he was not affected. He was steady. So that's what we can learn from. Yeah. Another example is Jada Bharata. Right? So he was a king, but later he became a deer. Then he became a Jada Bharata, a Brahman family. So he was insulted by one king called Rahugana. It is a long story. In our IOF South Bangalore, we have one video called Lessons from Jada Bharata. We learn the story of Jada Bharata. He was insulted by Rahugana by calling ill words and all, but he was peaceful. He was not at all disturbed. Right? See, he only speaks about Krishna. In return, Jada Bharata enlightened Rahugana. Although he was insulted, he enlightened Rahugana by speaking wonderful story in 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So that's what we can learn from this. This is one of the symptoms of a great soul. Another symptom of great soul is he is sense controlled. He is not agitated by temptations. He's like a tortoise. A tortoise, when danger is there, it will withdraw its senses. And when there is no danger, it will again release its senses. Similarly, a devotee also, when there is danger, he'll withdraw. When there are distracting sights, he will withdraw. When distracting sound, he'll withdraw. And when he goes to a temple, he sees form of the Lord and he engages senses in the service of the Lord. And here example of Haridas Thakur is given. A prostitute came to disturb him in the middle of the night, but he was not at all disturbed. In fact, the prostitute became transformed. So that's an example of a fixed devotee. See here the tortoise example is given in shloka number 58. Kurma Angani va Sarvasha. The Kurma's example is given here. So a steady person is like a Kurma. Right? And even when distress comes, like Jadabharta was attempted to be killed by some dacoits, still he was not disturbed. Right? So that was the second question. And third question, how does he sit? That's answered in 2 shlokas, 58 and 59. Like Dhruv Maharaj, his photo is put here. He was standing on one leg and then he was doing tapasya, meditating on the form of the Lord in his heart. So that is explained here. Right? He uses his senses only in Lord's service. Okay? And he controls his senses by fixing his mind on Krishna. See, sense control we want to get, but sense control is difficult without fixing our mind on Krishna. So once we fix our mind on Krishna, then sense control becomes very easy. Right? I gave one talk on this, at how to overcome bad habits by sense control, by actually fixing our mind on a higher taste. So when we get higher taste, we give up lower tastes. For example, if we get gulab jamun, we can give up easily dry roti. So, but if you don't have gulab jamun, then only eat dry roti. That's compared to bad habits. So when you have a higher engagement, lower engagements can be easily given up. So a fixed up devotee, he is always fixed in higher engagements and he never indulges in any lower activities like meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication or gambling. He is free from this because he has got Krishna's taste. So that's another symptom of a Sthita Prajna. Yeah, so see this restaurant is here. This is ISKCON's restaurant called Govinda's, the higher taste. And here Prabhupada said you can make nice items and feed people so that people will forget eating non-veg food or forget eating fast food. So you can get higher taste. Okay. Restraining is difficult without Krishna. Like here above you will see Vishwamitra allured by Menaka. And Vishwamitra lost his power because of that allurement. But Haridas Thakur was not allured. So those who are fixed up in God, they can overcome these allurements, but not otherwise. Right. And if we let our senses loose, like if one of the horses is let loose, then the vehicle cannot go properly. It will be shaking. So you have to control the senses. So Krishna says, control the senses with the mind. Even if you let one sense loose, it will destroy you. So yogi should be very careful. So Sthita Prajna is careful to control his senses. So like this he tells about how to control the senses. A steady devotee is controlled. Yeah. Okay, so this is also sense control only. Okay. Yeah, so if not somebody is not able to control senses, what happens? He falls down. So see, this is a famous story of Ajamila. So Ajamila was a Brahmana, but he saw one scene where a prostitute was dealing with a Shudra. And he saw that scene and he got so disturbed that he tried to chant mantras. He came home. He tried to remove the scene from his mind, but still he was not able to remove. He started contemplating. And then he went and brought the prostitute and he enjoyed the prostitute. He sent away his wife and children and parents. And he had 10 children from the prostitute. And like this and then to maintain the prostitute, he was begging, borrowing, stealing, murdering, so many things he was doing. So he lost his dharma. He was a Brahmana by birth and wonderful qualities he had, but he lost it. Because he allowed one sense, the eyes, to see that scene and then contemplate on it. Then he fell down. So that whole sequence is given here because we don't have time to discuss in detail, but this chart we will share with you. Basically, it says contemplating the object of senses leads to attachment. Attachment leads to lust. Lust, if it is unfulfilled, leads to anger. And anger leads to delusion. Like when a person becomes angry, he'll speak harshly or start fighting, isn't it? That's what delusion. Then bewilderment of memory. Then intelligence is lost. Then he stops his spiritual practice. He falls down. So this is a sequence given in those shlokas. So like this, yeah. I'll go to that shloka. Yeah. So that is the third question of how does he sit? And how does he walk? That's the last question and the answer for this last question. So how does he walk? He walks like this. While engaging senses, he does with regulation and religious principles. Okay. When he moves around in this world, he is always practicing religious principles. He never forgets the religious principles. Whether he is at work or whether he is in home or he is dealing with people, he always follows dharma. That's what it means. So the self-realized person is free from all attachment and aversion. He controls his senses through regulative principles of freedom. Thus he obtains the complete mercy of the Lord. So, so for about 8 verses, Krishna speaks this theme, and then he says that no, somebody who is working for Krishna, means he's working for Krishna, then he'll get the mercy of Krishna, then he'll be happy. And if somebody is not working for Krishna, he's always disturbed. And because he is always disturbed, he cannot get peace and happiness. Ashantasya kuta sukham, he says. And then he says that how a devotee is steady like an ocean. That comes in the 70th shloka. I'll show this shloka here and we'll end our session with that shloka in just 2 more minutes. Yes, so this is one of the last shlokas of this chapter. Apuryamanam machala pratishtham samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashanti mapnoti nakamakami. So the analogy of samudra is given here. Just like many rivers are entering into samudra, thousands of rivers, but samudra never rises an inch. It remains steady, right? So of course now the glaciers are melting because of so much carbon emission. Then samudra's water is rising, not because of rivers, but because of that. So similarly, so many desires may be entering into the sthita prajna, but he is not at all disturbed. That's called as sthita prajna. Sashanti mapnoti nakama kami. So this is a steady devotee. And when a person reaches this state, then he can easily go back home, back to Godhead. Vihaya kaman yah sarvan puman charati nispraha nirmamo nirahankara sashantim adhigacchati. So when he is in such a state of undisturbed consciousness, he is fixed in the soul, then he will attain peace, shanti. And then Esha Brahmi Sthiti, this is called as spiritual perfection. Partha, Nainam Prapti Vimuhyati. After attaining this, he is never bewildered. So now you are confused. That confusion is not be there. Sthitvasya mantakalepi Brahma Nirvanam Richati. So one will attain Brahma Nirvana or highest happiness, spiritual happiness. So in this way, he ends the 2nd chapter. And in 3rd chapter, it begins by a question by Arjuna, where he had a doubt whether I'm still confused whether to fight or not to fight, because you said avoid sinful activities, yet fight. So can you please make me understand? Then 3rd chapter begins Karma Yoga, which we'll discuss next week. So in essence, today we discussed 4 acronyms, 1 acronym containing 4 letters, GITA. Okay, so GITA means this: Guru, identity, Guru means Arjuna surrendered to Krishna and accepted Krishna as Guru. Identity means who are you? I am the spirit soul, part and parcel of God. Two duties, which is material duty and spiritual duty. By doing material duty, one will attain material happiness, and by doing spiritual duty, one will go back to Godhead. That is the third section. And the fourth one is Atma Rama, a self-realized person. So if you remember these four letters, then you can easily remember the entire chapter. Okay, so it is very big chapter. I tried to compress it in 1.5 hours. So you can again read it in your week, at least shloka translation and important purports which I'll be sharing with you on Telegram. Okay. Thank you so much. If anybody has any questions, we can take some questions now. Yeah, Dheeraj is asking a question. Sometimes with less effort, we get great results, but at other times it takes a lot of effort to get meager results. That's true. Because the result is not just in our effort, but it's also our previous karma also. There are many factors involved. The time, the place, the doer, the endeavor, and Paramatma. These 5 causes are involved, which we'll discuss in the 18th chapter. Okay, so the 18th chapter, this is more detailed explained about the 5 causes of result of the work. Okay, Shreya is asking, can you explain 49th shloka again? Yes, 49th shloka is this one. दूरेण ह्यवरं कर्म बुद्धि योगा धनंजय बुद्धो शरणम अन्विच्छ कृपणा फलहेतवः. So durena means far away, keep far away sinful activities. Don't do sinful activities. Avaram karma means sinful karma. Buddhi yogad, by intelligence. Give up. Buddho sharanam anvicha kripana falahetavah. Intelligent person surrenders to the Supreme Lord, but kripanas, they endure for the results of the work. So that's what Krishna says here in this shloka. And next shloka he says, yeah, Buddhi yukto jahatiha yubhe sukruta dushkrute tasmad yogai yujjasva yoga karma su kaushalam. So this 49th and 50th shloka, Krishna is giving, in one shloka he said avoid sinful reactions, sinful activities, and next shloka is telling fight. So Arjuna is not able to understand these two things. Fighting is also sinful. Why are you telling me to fight? So that question will be clarified in the next chapter in more detail. Of course, it's clear here also, but more clarification will be given in the next chapter.
Good evening, Prabhuji. Nidhi here.
Yes, Mataji.
I had a doubt about the 20th shloka where you told that we no need to lament about death because we again exist in the future too. But I want to ask about what about people who die early and who haven't not yet fulfilled their duties, like who die young, maybe in accidents, who have unfortunate death, not because of natural causes. So what about them?
So generally, somebody dies early by unnatural death, like accident or so. So that may also be because of previous karma. Right? Generally, natural death means one may die at the age of 70 or so, old age. Generally, one lives for a long time. But in case somebody has done some karma because of which he dies early, okay, so that may be his lifespan for this life. In that case, then he will get a next life and he'll continue to fulfill his desires in the next life. But in case somebody commits suicide, where he forcibly ends his life, then the remaining part of his life he has to live as a ghost without a gross body, and then after completing that punishment duration, then he is given a next body. So that's what happens. So generally the duration of the life is fixed. Just like when we purchase a medicine, we have expiry date on it. There's manufacturing date and expiry date. Similarly, when the body is created, it also has got a birth date, and death date is also fixed in one sense because our previous karma determines our current life duration. Okay. So death is also not a chance. It is determined by our previous karma. Okay. More details of karma will come soon in the 3rd, 4th chapter. Karma will be discussed. Yeah.
Got it, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so there is one more question here. Can you put more light, Prabhu, how a student in Krishna consciousness should study? Rishikesh is asking. So very nice question. So I think it's related to the shloka karmanyavadikaraste. Yeah, you should study. So you should plan studies in such a way that you put your 100% efforts. In our efforts, we should not have any we should not lament later that no, I could have studied more. I wasted time watching video games, playing video games, or watching cricket. So that kind of lamentation should not be there. So one should make a schedule in such a way that he studies proper quota, put full efforts in the right kind of books, and he should write his exams properly. And at the end, whatever results come, we should accept it. So that's how we should study. Okay, so generally we teach our students how to make a chart, time management matrix. Okay, daily, how many hours you will study, which subjects you will study, at what time you will study. That we generally make a chart, and then they fill up, and then they try to follow that. So we should be doing our efforts properly. Then the results, we should accept whatever comes. So that's how we can study. So somebody is asking, if everyone in Kurukshetra able to see Krishna during Gita, why they will fight with him? Yeah, they were enemies of Krishna. Although Krishna spoke Gita, they could not understand Krishna is Supreme Lord. Even Duryodhana could not understand. Duryodhana, even after seeing Krishna, could not understand Krishna is God. Right? Krishna showed Vishwarup Darshan, still Duryodhana could not understand. So it shows that if you don't have love, we cannot see or identify Krishna. Like for example, right now if Krishna walks into your room, okay, if he walks into your room and he says, I am Krishna with a flute and peacock feather, bluish black body and yellow garments, how many of you will believe that he is Krishna? Will be doubtful. Maybe somebody has put a costume and come or something like that. Right? So we cannot identify Krishna. Only when you have love for Krishna, then you can identify here is Krishna. Okay. And those who are devotees on the Kurukshetra, they could see, like Bhishma, Yudhishthira, Pandavas, they could see Krishna as Supreme Lord. Others, they saw Krishna as an enemy because they had wicked mentality. So there's another question here. Okay, Dr. Harsha Mataji is asking, even for a sage, it's difficult to control all his senses. Then how can we control our senses, especially when you are surrounded with so many bad things and bad mentality? Yeah, it's very true. Even sages have difficulty because unless the mind is fully pure, it's very difficult to control the senses. So what we should do is we should try to remember Krishna as much as possible by chanting Hare Krishna mantra, like all of you are chanting Hare Krishna. So please continue the chanting, whatever rounds you are doing. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So right now the mind is filled with many impure thoughts. So by chanting Hare Krishna, we have to drive away all those impure thoughts from the mind. And when all the impure thoughts are removed, then we can be not affected by these negative thoughts, actually. Just like infection. When you get some infection, unless all the virus is removed from the body, there is again chance of getting infected. So you have to take the dose of medicines in such a way that all the infection is gone. So similarly, we should also take the dose of Krishna consciousness in such a way that all the lust and anger and greed in the mind is gone. Then we'll not get affected. That is the stage of Sthita Prajna. Prajahati yada kaman. He has given up all lust from his mind. That's why it's called Sthita Prajna. So we should endeavor to come to that stage. Okay. So when you keep chanting, that stage will come eventually. Omkar is asking, Hare Krishna Prabhu, you told about Prahlad Maharaj in Shloka 2.7. Can you please share the reference? It's not 2.7, it's 2.7. Yeah, it is Sthita Prajna section. So, Prahlad, okay, you are asking about Komar Acharit Prajna. So that is Srimad Bhagavatam actually. 7.5.1 Srimad Bhagavatam, 751 Shloka. There this comes. Prahlad Maharaj. Okay, if someone is mad by birth, then what about them, Prabhuji? How can they know about God? Yeah, they may not be able to know about God, but you can help them to understand God by giving them some chanting some shlokas for them, chanting some mantras for them, doing some pujas for them. Because of their previous karma, they are born mad, or they are not having that physical and mental capacities to understand God or practice spirituality. But you can help them as much as possible. So spiritual help can be given at any stage, whether somebody is blind or deaf or dumb, still you can help them spiritually, right? Because everybody needs treats, you can feed them prasadam. Anybody can do puja for them, pray for them, and you can chant. They may not be able to chant, then you can chant for them. So then like that you can do spiritual benefit to them. Okay. Okay, can we have the daily sheet for recording during the chanting Mahamantra? Okay, so you want a daily chanting sheet. So like the Google form which you made, Dheeraj? The last time during 21 days marathon we made? Okay, so we can send on format to you. Yes, we'll put in the Telegram so that you can utilize. Okay. Okay. Is there any other questions? If anybody has any questions, you can maybe unmute and speak also. Okay, no more questions. Yes. Somebody has any question, you can ask. I think Shivani wants to speak something, but we're not able to hear you. Okay. Hare Krishna. So thank you so much for attending today's session. I think we had full attendance. Oh, no questions are coming.
Prabhuji, my doubt was, how did Krishna die? It is
Krishna.
claimed that he was killed by a hunter named Jara, but I had the doubt that if he was killed by Jara, then Balrama could have killed him, right?
See, I'll clarify this. So this is fourth chapter. Ajopi san vyayatma bhuta namishwaropi san prakritim swan adhisthaya sambhavam atma maya. Krishna says, I am unborn, and a transcendental body never deteriorates. Avyayatma means what? Krishna never dies. Although I am the Lord of all being living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So this means that, see, soul never dies. How can Krishna die? Right? So Krishna never has death. Only thing Krishna did was he appeared as if he died, but he went back to spiritual world. Okay, so the hunter Jara came and he mistook the lotus feet of Krishna to be the mouth of a deer, to be a deer because it's looking pinkish. And he shot an arrow, and then arrow pierced Krishna's feet. And Krishna smiling at Jara. Jara came and he saw Krishna and he saw leg bleeding. He fell at the feet of Krishna and Krishna smiling at him. And Jara felt repentant. Please forgive me. I didn't understand that you are the Supreme Lord. Please forgive me. And Krishna said, no, this is my Leela. I want to end my pastimes. I'm using this as a nimitta, as a reason for leaving this world. Actually, Krishna's body cannot produce, doesn't have any blood. Right? Ashna viram shuddham apapa viddham. It doesn't have blood. It is pure. But Krishna manifested blood. That's all. Like even when Bhishma was eating arrows at Krishna, Krishna is manifesting blood. There's no blood in Krishna's body. It's spiritual actually. So then when Jara came and begged forgiveness, then Krishna forgave him, and then Krishna ascended back to the spiritual world. That's how Krishna ended the pastime. So Krishna went back to his spiritual world. That's what is the reason.
Prabhuji and Balram?
Balaram, in near Dwarka, there is the ocean. So Balaram took the form of a snake, Ananta Shesh, he is Ananta, and took the form of a snake and entered the ocean. In that way, he ended his pastime. Right? So great personalities, they don't die like us. They just finish their pastimes and go. Like you see Udupi Madhvacharya. He was sitting in meditation and suddenly disappeared. He went to Himalayas. So there's no samadhi for Madhvacharya. Even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was in Jagannath Puri, and there was a Krishna deity called Gopinath. And Lord Chaitanya was taking darshan of Gopinath and he entered into Gopinath. and then he disappeared. He ended his pastimes. So that's how great souls end their pastimes. Even when
Thank you,
we die,
Prabhuji.
even when we die, our body is burnt or buried, but the soul goes to next life. Even we don't die. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. I hope that clarifies.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare
Dheeraj
Krishna.
here.
Yeah,
Actually, the doubt I had raised in Telegram group also. In that page 28 now, it's second last paragraph. And the Bhagavad Gita is just like a cow. Even what you quoted from the Gita Upanishad now, there also it is there. But I was, okay, Bhagavad Gita is the milk only. But why it is written like that?
Acha, acha, acha. Okay, let me check. Yeah, the Gita, this Gita Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, the essence of all the Upanishads. Yeah. Okay. Actually, it should be this one. I think you're referring to this. So Gita is called Gita Upanishad, and it's essence of all Upanishads. Okay. It's just like the cow. Actually, Upanishads are the cow. Upanishads are compared to the cow. And Lord Krishna is the cowherd boy. He is milking this cow. Okay. What we wrote, that's the correct one. Okay. Maybe some grammatical change has to be done. That's all. So actually, cow body is compared to Upanishads, and the essence is Bhagavad Gita, which Arjuna is drinking and Krishna is milking. That's the analogy, which goes on to say that if you read Bhagavad Gita, you can understand the essence of entire Vedas and Upanishads. Okay, Dheeraj?
Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Shivani Parab, she's asking, many people say that women on their period should not touch or read Bhagavad Gita. What will you say on this menstrual period? So as far as that period is concerned, then generally one is not allowed to do pujas for the vigrahas. But other activities like hearing mantras or reading or chanting can go on. So in ISKCON, devotees, females, they do this. So they can chant, read and hear, that's allowed. But doing some services related to the Vigraha, that's not recommended at that time. Okay, Suchitra Mataji is asking, while studying, we have constant thought of getting a good score, clearing the exam. So this thought of getting good score is fruitive, and we have attachment to the fruit. So how can we do it in Nishkama Karma Yoga? Oh, good question. So yes, we worry about the result, but that results will affect our performance. So what we should do generally is we should fix certain goal, because without goal we cannot have any impetus to work. So suppose you want a 9 pointer, 9+ pointer, something like that for study. Then you set the goal, but you focus on your endeavor. Don't focus on the end result. You set the end goal, but you focus right now on the endeavor which you are doing. Then you are not attached to the result, you are attached to the duty. So that's how you can do Nishkam Karma Yoga. Okay. So what will happen is when you do your best endeavor, whatever results come, you'll happily accept it. But if you become dejected, morose, then that's not Nishkam, that's Sakama Karma. Sakama Karma Yoga, when we are doing, the results will affect our performance or disturb our consciousness. But when you do Nishkama Karma Yoga, whatever result you get, you'll be happy. So that is the difference between Nishkama Karma Yoga and Sakama Karma Yoga. Is it clear? And the highest Nishkama Karma is when you do it for the pleasure of Lord. Okay, so I will study nicely for the pleasure of Lord Krishna. Because when I get good scores, then I can glorify Krishna. Like one of our devotees, he got gate rank number 1 in the year 2010. He was gate All India number 1 rank, and many people were calling him for interview and newspaper and TV channels and all. Then there he was telling, what is the secret of your success? They asked. Then he said, Bhagavad Gita. Because I was reading Bhagavad Gita, I knew how to do my duty properly. So then Krishna gave me this rank. So he glorified Krishna like anything through that. So if the goal of result is to glorify Krishna, then that's also Nishkama. Okay, that's actually pure bhakti. Okay, I hope that clarifies the question. Okay, so thank you. Any other question? Somebody else? Okay, so then I'll be sharing some shlokas for memorization. I'll be recording and sending also. So you can try to memorize them, and we'll send the quiz also by tomorrow or Tuesday morning. And you can also try to answer those quiz, which will help you to revise the whole thing. And also share some small videos which we made for Sthita Pragna section, so that also you can optionally. Okay, Shivani says there's some problem with your mic. I already answered your question about that periods. Yeah. So generally one can read Gita, one can chant Hare Krishna, not a problem. But only thing, we avoid doing service in the puja room, that we can avoid. Or cooking for the Lord, that can be avoided. But generally nowadays we cannot avoid cooking for ourselves or family. Whether it's for cooking for the Lord in the temple or in the home, so that can be avoided. It depends upon specific. More details you can ask your mentor, Malti Mataji or Ashwini Mataji. They can help you more with this. Okay. Yeah, so we'll send the talks on the Telegram, Harsha Mataji. Okay. And also one more thing, that we are also planning to launch the next 21-day course in the month of September, in the middle of September. So do you think it's a good idea for that, so that more new people can also get benefit of this? And all our teachers are also eager and they want to have this. So if all of you can help in propagating this course to your friends and relatives who are in need, and they can also take the benefit, as all of you have got the benefit from this 21-day course. So we'll be starting it after 20 days in middle of September. Exact date we'll go on another meeting, short meeting. There we'll tell you the exact details of what is it. Okay. Fine. So thank you. So we'll meet again next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.